War. War never changes.
Call of Duty versus Battlefield. Battlefield versus Call of Duty. The war never stops. It never will stop. And you know what? I don't even mind it because first of all, it's entertaining. And second of all, competition is always good. In this video, we're gonna compare the incredibly successful Warzone, Call of Duty Modern Warfare's take on the Battle Royale genre, to Battlefield 5's Firestorm. One is free to play, 150 players on one map, over 30 million downloads, and the other one is Firestorm. Now, but for real, this is gonna be a comparison to showcase what works in this ever-changing industry and what doesn't, and what both games can learn from each other. Yes, both games, because you'd be quick to assume that Warzone will all over Firestorm, and you will be mostly right, but there are a couple of things within Firestorm that will make you go, that's pretty awesome. So let's do this. Let's start with the basics. We're not gonna count points to decide who is the winner or anything, because Warzone already won when they announced it was free to play. So let's start with that. Firestorm is the Battle Royale game mode of Battlefield 5, and you can only play it if you have a copy of the game. Warzone is part of Call of Duty Modern Warfare, but it's a free-to-play, standalone game mode, meaning that you can download and play it whether or not you have the base game for free. So that alone will make Warzone a huge success. But let's look at actual gaming content here. Let's start with the maps, arguably one of the most important aspects to a Battle Royale game. Now, there aren't any official trustworthy numbers in my opinion, but it is stated that the Firestorm map is 7 squared kilometers and the Warzone map is around 4 squared kilometers. But to be honest, I don't know, while playing both of these games I've never really noticed a huge difference in size. To be honest, maybe Warzone is even bigger, but that being said, size isn't everything, at least that's what my girlfriend always says to me to make me feel better. Now I'm just kidding, I don't have a girlfriend, but what I'm trying to say is that yes, you could have a massive map, but if there isn't anything to do, it doesn't really matter. So the player count is very important. Firestorm has only a maximum of 64 players on this huge map, which is a little bit on the low side. Most Battle Royale games have at least 100 players. Warzone, on the other hand, has a maximum of 150 players. That's 2.5 times more than Firestorm, give or take. And there are rumors that they will increase the player count to 200 in the near future, but we'll see about that. Now, when you start a game of Firestorm, the first zone has already started, meaning that you have around 50% of the playable area at the start. Which is kinda smart, you know, it's a huge map, but it made it smaller at the start to fit more of that 64 player count. In terms of pacing, again, it can be quite similar between the games. A full game of Warzone till the end is usually around 25 minutes max, and I believe Firestorm is also between 20-25 minutes, give or take. But pacing isn't always dictated by how long a game lasts. Again, remember, one has 64 players and the other one has 150 players. So that being said, let's look at some other things that heavily impacts the pacing of these Battle Royale game modes. The 150 players of Warzone genuinely gives you more action, more kills and more firefights within those 25 minutes, and that will make it feel more alive and will make it feel like it has better pacing in my opinion. Some people prefer the old campy PUBG kind of pacing, which in my opinion is extremely boring. And then another thing, mobility. In the early days of Battle Royale games, mobility wasn't that big of a deal, but now, without some proper mobility, it's gonna feel incredibly boring without much variety. So in Firestorm, we have cars and jeeps, even a so-called Schwimmwagen, which is kind of an amphibious car that can drive on land, as well as travel across water. But you also have a helicopter called a Colibri, which is a World War II helicopter, and I'm pretty sure it was one of the first real helicopters ever made back in the day. But in Warzone, you also have these vehicles. You have quad bikes, cars and jeeps, a truck and a helicopter. There is one type of vehicle though that is in Firestorm and not in Warzone, and that is the tank. Yes, for the people who don't know, in Firestorm you can actually go inside a tank, but no, it's not overpowered at all. Matter of fact, in my opinion, you are in a big disadvantage when you are inside a vehicle in Firestorm. Vehicles in Battlefield 5 are not really all that great when it comes to physics, and the Firestorm map doesn't really have any flat terrain. And another huge thing, vehicles in Firestorm actually use fuel. You can't drive or fly for the entire round in Firestorm, unlike in Warzone, which is a big thing that I believe is going to be changed. Right now in Warzone you can hop in a truck or a helicopter for the entire game, and trucks are really powerful, so not many people will try and shoot you, and eventually this can happen.
No, don't do it!
Okay, I got him. It's just the two of us. Please don't kill me. Don't kill. Let's see what happens. This is from my last video if you guys want to see that. So that's one of the few things that Firestorm actually does better in my opinion. I think if Warzone added fuel to vehicles to balance it out a bit, that would be a pretty good addition, considering that you can also easily roadkill people in Warzone. You know, perhaps you could buy fuel at buying stations. What do you guys think? Is fuel a good idea? Let me know down below. And speaking of buying things, let's talk about one of the key features in Warzone that makes it really stand out. In Warzone you have the so-called buying stations, where you can buy armor, kill streaks, UAVs and even a loadout drop, which lets you choose your own creator class in Warzone along with perks, which is really powerful. Now you can obviously buy these things with in-game cash. You get this cash by killing enemy players and completing contracts, which I'm gonna talk about in a minute. This cash reward system is really great addition in my opinion, and it kind of forces people, it gives the incentive for people to be more aggressive and try to hunt people down. Again, improving the pacing of the game. That's one of the things that make Warzone unique. Another huge thing in Warzone that makes it unique is the Gulag. When you die for the first time in Warzone, you get sent to the Gulag where you have the chance to respawn if you win a 1v1 firefight. I think this is a really cool and fun addition to the game, because that means that, you know, dying right off the bat when you land doesn't mean you're out of the game and you have to, you know, reconnect and matchmake and all of that stuff. If you're good enough to win the 1v1, you get your second and final chance. In trios, you technically can buy your team back whenever you want as long as you have enough cash. This comes from Apex Legends obviously, where you can bring back your teammates if you are fast enough. Again, all of this extends the retention of the player. Really clever. Something that's not in Firestorm obviously. In Firestorm there are no second chances. If you die, you die. But Firestorm does have something unique, which Warzone definitely doesn't have, and that is destruction. You see, Firestorm is still Battlefield, and Battlefield is known for its destruction. It doesn't really come to life all that much in Firestorm, but it's definitely there, and that's really cool. For example, when you know an enemy is inside a building, in Warzone you have to enter the building through the roof, or the doors or the window, but in Firestorm you can simply blow up the entire house. Earlier I mentioned the buying stations and kill streaks in Warzone, but there are some things in Firestorm that are kinda similar. Gadgets, which sometimes do function very similar. For example, instead of a UAV you have a spawning flare. Instead of an airstrike you can call in a V1 rocket, and the armor system is pretty much identical. In both games you don't have helmets, you simply have 3 plates of armor to double your health. And that's also something that's very different in both games. Health, or should I rather say, the time to kill. In Call of Duty it can sometimes be extremely fast. In Firestorm it can be a bit slow. This is really subjective though, some people like a very fast time to kill and some don't. I'm kinda in the middle, I know, how convenient. Warzone has also regenerating health by the way, which is also pretty unique for a Battle Royale game. So you don't have to heal yourself to get some health, you just have to be out of danger for long enough to get regenerated. Of course this only applies to your health and not your armor. Firestorm still has the healing system that we all know from Battle Royale games. Getting back to those contracts in Warzone, you have 3 different types. You have a scavenger contract, which lets you find loot boxes. After finding usually 3 or 4 you get a cash reward. You also have a contract where you have to capture a point. And you have a bounty contract. This one is pretty awesome because this lets you see the approximate area of your target and you need to hunt them down. Again for a cash reward, but the other player also gets a notification that they are being hunted. So it's this kind of mini cat and mouse game within Warzone that I find really awesome. It's content within the content, if you know what I mean. As for Firestorm, you do have some things to do. Like one of the contracts in Warzone, you can capture points in order to get better loot. You also have these saves that you can unlock. It takes a while, so you are at risk, but it often has very good loot as well. And you can also open tank vaults to get access to tanks. Now, like I said, tanks aren't really that useful in Firestorm in my opinion, and while opening the tank vault, you are extremely vulnerable, and the loud alarm can be heard all over the place, so everybody knows you're there opening a vault. Furthermore, here are a couple more weird things that I like to compare. In both games you have a down but not out state if you are playing squads. Oh, by the way, Firestorm supports solos and a 4-man squad mode. In Warzone has solos and trios. Neither has duos. It will probably come to Warzone in the near future, just like solos recently, and duos has been removed from Firestorm because not enough people played it. F's in the chat. Anyway, like I was saying, both games have a down but not out state when playing squads in order to be revived obviously. And in Warzone you also have it in solos if you have bought the self-revive kit. However, in Firestorm they recently added a down but not out state even in solos, like this. I mean, what the hell is this? This guy can't revive himself or anything. This is just cruel. Obviously, I took this as an opportunity to troll these guys, but it's just weird. It could also be a bug, by the way, you never know. But I think this is intentional and very strange. If you have a pistol equipped in your loadout and you are down in Firestorm, you have the ability to shoot at your enemy, which is a really awesome idea, but unfortunately, because it's so janky and it doesn't really work, it's not useful at all. So that's really a shame, because that could have been a very nice feature. You know, you are down but not out, but you are still a threat, so when people come to third you, they have to think twice, but it doesn't really play like that. The looting system is also pretty different in both games. Loot from fallen enemies are scattered around the place, so it's not a death box system like in Apex, but Warzone still does it better in my opinion. You don't have to manually pick up ammo, cash or armor, you can just run through the pile and pick up all you need. Only weapons and stuff need to be manually picked up. Sometimes the loot can be, you know, inside of each other, but generally it works well enough. In Firestorm, however, the looting system is trash, which has been the case since the very start. DICE promised to fix the looting system, and I think they made one update back in the day which made it a tiny bit better, but overall it's still garbage. Items that are stuck inside walls, on the ground, so you're not able to pick it up. It's really bad and really frustrating. Now, before I'm ending this video, there are a couple of more things. There is a rumor that within Warzone there is some kind of an Easter egg with the keypads or something like that. Maybe there is like a hidden story or some lore to the whole deal. In Firestorm that was also the case. There was supposedly a story built around the Firestorm, also some Easter eggs and stuff like that, but as support went down to 0, all of that died down, which is kinda sad. But now, arguably one of the most important differences between Firestorm and Warzone is the sound. And I'm not talking about which game sounds better, because that would go to Firestorm any day of the week, although this is the first Call of Duty game that doesn't sound like horseshit. Anyway, no, I'm talking about things like footstep audio and different audio cues. Battlefield 5 doesn't have a good track record when it comes to footstep audio, but in Firestorm, at least now, compared to Warzone, it's pretty amazing. In Warzone I often don't hear enemy footsteps at all. It is very inconsistent, like sometimes you hear it very faintly, and other times not at all, and sometimes it works like it's supposed to. I'm pretty sure this is gonna get addressed soon, but until then, it's an annoying problem for me. But in Firestorm the footsteps are really good, at least in my opinion. You can hear them from far away, you can almost pinpoint the exact location of where they are coming from. Depending on the sound, you can hear if they are on the outside or if they are in a building, if they are on the second floor or the first floor. I think it's really well done in Firestorm, and I have to give credit where credit is due. Because I also remember a time where they messed up the footstep audio to the point where I couldn't play the whole Firestorm game out at all because you are so dependent on it. And last but not least, the biggest difference that everybody sees, this is aesthetically, is the storm or the ring, whatever you want to call it. In Warzone it's gas, green gas, which is not terrible but not amazing. It hurts like hell though, you don't want to get caught in the gas, it's really unforgiving in Warzone. In Firestorm the ring is made out of, you guessed it, fire, a giant ring of fire, which is easily the best looking ring out of any Battle Royale game. This fire also destroys building like it's nothing, so you better not be inside one when the ring closes. However, despite how it looks, the ring is not that scary in Firestorm because it hardly does any damage until like the very last circle. So it's very annoying when you are near the ring and some dude comes out of the fire behind you only to shoot you in the back. And that's about it for the comparison, guys. I think I covered pretty much everything. Let me know down below, who do you think won, Warzone or Firestorm? Now, but for real, let me know your thoughts down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you haven't already. A massive thank you to my Patreon supporters, and with that being said, I see you guys next time.